everyone. Okay. So the last thing we saw last week was, so we started with Rabbi Kotler. That was 2 weeks ago, and discussed his motivation to write what he wrote. And then we saw the Ramban, who suggested there is a flaw, and there is deficiency in what Avram did. Chet chata Avraham Avinu, omnam bishgaga, but he committed a sin. And then we questioned Ramban himself, that he seems to be that he expects Avraham not to do any hishtadlut, and only to rely on Hashem. And we had some issues with that. And then we saw the Midrash in Bereshit Rabbah that says that really Avraham didn't do anything wrong. Not only that he didn't do anything wrong, whatever he did was a sign for his descendants. Maaseh Avot, Siman Labanim. And we also, and that was really the last thing, we questioned the Ramban, because the Ramban is known for this concept of Maaseh Avot, Siman Labanim. And he took it from that Midrash, but still added what? That whatever Avraham did, yes, it's Maaseh Avot Siman Labanim, but he still did what? A chet. Okay. So that was Ramban, and that was a few of our issues with the Ramban. So now take a look at Rabbeinu Bachye, or Rabbeinu Bachye, or Rabbeinu Bachye Ibn Pekuda. We don't have numbers. I have no idea why. No numbers, so not the first page, not the second page, 2A. It should be 2B.
161. This is 161.
No, this one. Rabbeinu Bachye.
The one
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Okay, all right, very good. One before 161. Okay. Which is not 160. Okay. So, Imrina achotiat. Right? So, Avraham asks Sarah, please say that you are my sister. הנה זה החטא שחטא אברהם בשוגג. Rabbeinu Bachye, many times he follows the Ramban, and he says this is the sin that Avraham committed בשוגג, by mistake. הוא שעליו היה גלות מצרים. And that's the reason for גלות מצרים. ובוודאי היה חטא גדול. Now it's not only like חטא קטן, it's a חטא גדול. It's a grave sin שהביא אשתו הצדקת במכשול עוון מפני פחדו פן יהרגו. So he quotes the Ramban that he brought his wife to danger and put her life in jeopardy because he was afraid to be killed. והיה לו לפתוח בהשם יתברך שיציל אותו ואת אשתו. So he had to trust God that he will save him and his wife. ועוד שחטא בצאתו מן הארץ שנצטווה עליה מתחילה, and also that he left Israel, that he was commanded to go there, ויצא משם על אודות הרעב, and he left because of the famine. והיה לו לבטוח בהשם יתברך כי יפדנו ברעב וממוות. He had to trust God that he would save him from the famine and from death. ועל החטא הזה נגזר על זרעו גלות מצרים, and because of that sin, God decreed גלות מצרים, כי במקום החטא שמה העונש. זה לשון הרמב"ן. So he brought the Ramban. By quoting him, he obviously also admit that it's obviously a viable option. And then he says, ולפי דעת רבותינו ז"ל, and according to our sages in גמרא נדרים, היה גלות מצרים בחטא שאמר, במה אדע כי ירשנה. שכן אמרו במדרש, הוא אמר במה אדע, הקדוש ברוך הוא אמר לו, ידוע תדע. ונראה מזה שחשבו לחטא. So now, the Rabbeinu Bachye, he is not bothered by the fact that that the Ramban accuses Avraham of doing a chet, but rather he says, no, there was another chet. And the other chet, that was the reason, that was the cause for Galut Mitzrayim. Because Avraham says, Bama eda ki irashena, how would I know that I will inherit the land? Hashem says to him what? Yadua teda. How yadua teda? Brit ben abetarim. What was Brit ben abetarim? First, go down to Egypt, be enslaved, and then, maybe, you will get what I promised, right? So basically, Rabbeinu Bachye adds another chet. Yeah, let's start counting, right? So, umikol makom, he says, ben ledat Rabbeinu Zal, Rabotenu Zal, uben ledat Harav, who is Harav? The Ramban. Rabbeinu Bachye calls the Ramban the Rav. Okay, it's not Rav Soloveitchik and it's not Rav Kook. Okay, every time it calls his Rav, the Rav. Okay, הכל היה חטא הדיבור. It was חטא בדיבור. רגע. 1 second. I understand, במה עדה, that was a sin in דיבור. Okay, let's say, even though I think it's a lack of faith, but בסדר, let's say it's דיבור. When he told Sarah, Imrina achoti at, please say that you are my sister, it's also בדיבור. But the fact that he left Israel and went down to מצרים, אין דיבור. There is no דיבור, unless he talked to himself, but if he didn't, so there is no דיבור. ועליו נענשו בגלות מצרים תל"ד שנה, and this is why they were punished in מצרים for 430 years. ומפני שהחטא הוא סיבת הגלות והפורענות, and because the sin is the cause and the root for the גלות, the exile, and the פורענות, the calamity, נחלק לשלושה חלקים. So now we're going to divide the sin to three parts. חלקי חטא המחשבה, one is what? A sin in your thought process. חטא הדיבור, speaking, וחטא המעשה. So basically, Rabbeinu Bachai understand that it's not only דיבור, but it's also what? מחשבה ומעשה. לכך, יש על המשכיל להתעורר על קץ גלותנו זה. So therefore, if you understand it, if you have a little bit of seichel, you need to understand that if you want to get rid of this galut that we are in, that we are at, what do you need to do? You need to what? To ראוי להיות ג' חלקים יותר על גלות מצרים. כי מתוך שעמדו במצרים תל"ד שנה, קל וחומר בבית ראשון שעבדנו עבודה זרה וחטאנו בג' חלקי החטא, מחשבה, דיבור ומעשה, נגזר עלינו 430 שנה כנגד הדיבור. 430 כנגד המחשבה, 430 כנגד המעשה, וזה חשבון דניאל, אשרי המחכה ויגיע לימים 1290 שהם ג' פעמים תל"ד. Now, he is revealing some secrets here. Okay, he says that we were punished for 430 years for every time we did something. So, מחשבה, דיבור and מעשה. Okay, 430 times 3 is 1290, right? 1290, which is exactly what Daniel says. אשרי המחכה, praiseworthy is the person who waits, ויגיע, and he will see the days of what? 1290, which is the end of the punishment for what we did. Now, because I'm not going to be mechashvei kitzim, because I know what the Talmud says about the people who make all those calculations, I don't want to have any part with this group. I will just tell you how people could obviously take that to all different types of directions. Anyone who would like to see what are some of the causes for Shabtai Tzvi can also see that people start making calculations. So that's a little bit of a dangerous thing. However, the Rabbeinu Bachai brings it, it's not in Sefer HaZohar, it's Parshanut on Chumash, and he says, ולכך אמר הנביא, תיתן אמת ליעקב, התפלל על הקץ הזה, ואמר, תתקיים 1290 ליעקב, כלומר לזרעו של יעקב, ואם תעשה זה במידת אמת, ואם לאו, במידת החסד שלך שהחזיק באברהם, וזה חסד לאברהם אשר נשבעת, כלומר שבועה יש בדבר שנשבעת לאבותינו מצד החסד. Okay. So basically, in a way, the Navi Micha says to Hashem, you know what, please, make sure to fulfill your promise, 430 times 3, Hegia Ketz. Speak. It's about time for you to redeem us, and hopefully we did tshuva for these three types of sin, or three parts of the sin, machshava, dibur, ve'maaseh. So according to Rabbeinu Bachai, and I'm not going to delve into so much the end, I wanted to focus on the beginning, Rabbeinu Bachai agrees with the Ramban that was a sin, and then he adds another sin. So obviously our issues with Rabbi Kotler just grow by the minute, but we understand where he's coming from. We remember it was in 1935 in Russia. Do you remember the name of the newspaper? Heint, nachon meod. The Heint that infiltrated every Jewish home in Yiddish, and they basically bashed the Avot, and he couldn't tolerate it. You are destroying those human minds of our youth, and you basically poison them, and no way. But we see that the Rishonim totally disagree with him. They might have agreed with him in 1935. I don't know, even though I don't think so. But definitely they show a different perspective. Take a look at the Radak. Rab David Kimchi, this is the Kimchi family, known for generations in Parshanuyot, says the following, "Vaya ki yiru otach hamitzrim." Right? Avram says to Sarah, when the Mitzrim will see you, they will see, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful, and they will take you and they will kill me. Therefore, say my sister, and then I will be saved. Shkoich. Says Radak, Bnei Mitzrayim einam yafim kmo bnei Eretz Canaan. Now, I don't know. I guess there was a beauty contest back then in Avram's time. But he says the Egyptians were a little less pretty than the Canaanites. אבל הם כעורים, but they are really ugly. כי הם דרומים. They are southern. Now I'm taking an offense, okay? Because they are southerns. והם שטופים בזימה. And they are filled with zima, which is like a totally inappropriate sexual behavior. לפיכך, כשהיה קרוב למצרים, therefore when he came close to מצרים, והיה בגבולה, and he was on its border, וראה אנשים כעורים, and he saw ugly people, היה ירא, he was afraid. כשיראו אשתו שיפת תואר, שיחמדו אותה. That when they will see her, they will say, oh my gosh, she's so pretty, let's take her. Now that explains, obviously, why he was not afraid in Canaan. Because if she is so beautiful, and you are basically stateless, Avram has nothing, how can he sit in Canaan for a year or two, or even a month, not being afraid that what? That they will take her? Answer is, they had their own beautiful wives. But he goes down to Mitzrayim, and then he see ugly people, and this is in Avram's mind, says, they are so ugly, my wife is so beautiful, they will definitely take her. כי אם היה יודע זה מתחילה, because if he would have known that from the get-go, לא הלך למצרים. He would not go to מצרים. אלא היה סובל הרעב, ולא שיפקיר את אשתו. He would suffer the starvation, and he will not let his wife to be like that. Yes?
He didn't know that she was pretty till then.
So that's interesting. The Radak does not say that, which is, by the way, what would you say? After 30 years of marriage, your husband looks at you and says, wow, I just realized you look pretty nice today. I think that will be his last words. Like, what did you do for 30 years? It's strange. Yes?
You know, it says in Pirkei Avos, Al kar b'sicha em ha'isha, and then it says, not even with your own wife. So I think that there are like these...
This is one sentence.
Parameters.
This is just one sentence. My dear wife, you look beautiful. That's not an excessive conversation. And also, don't forget, this is 2nd century. We are talking about Avram. And also, that idea of the Mishnah, it's not necessarily what it means. But, okay, let's move on.
Is that why they said Yosef was Yifat Torah also?
That Yosef was יפה תואר, רחל was יפת תואר ויפת מראה, אסתר נושאת חן בעיני כל רואיה. Yes? Yeah. So, no.
In our history.
No, but the idea in Egypt.
But
In Egypt, Yosef was so beautiful, and they wanted him because... Exactly. Yes?
But it doesn't say that Avram realized,
Sure not.
that he didn't realize that Mitzrayim was so...
I agree, but why is Radak saying that? But what Radak is saying, with all due respect, zero proof.
It's justification.
It's a justification for what? For putting Sarah in such danger. Who will do something like that? You know, when Yaakov meets Esav, when he comes back, what does he do? He hides everyone on the mothers. The mothers will protect the children, and he will protect all of them. What kind of a husband will do something like that? And the Radak says, this is why. He didn't know. Now, even though I would still ask about the Radak, okay, you go to the border, you see ugly people, you're afraid they're going to take your wife, you know what can you do? Turn around, go home. Okay? Go home. But Radak says, ולא ירא שיאנסו אותה ממנה וישכבו עמה, כי אם יעשו זה פעם אחת לא יעשו פעמים רבות, שישכבו אותה לעיניו, כי זה יהיה חמאס רב וחמאס תמידי, לא יסבלו אנשי העולם. So he says, then he says, you know what, look, they will take her, they might torture her a bit, but only once, twice. They're not going to do it, all the time, but to kill him, you kill a person only once. There's only one who came back, right? And we don't believe in him. So the others, after they are being killed, זהו, they don't come back for a while. So he says, אבל להרוג אותו אינו אלא פעם אחת. ואחר כך תהיה מופקרת להם בלא חמאס, כי לא יהיה לה בעל. ומזה פחד אברהם, ולא שמח על הבטחת האל שהבטיחו, כי הוא אמר שמא יגרום החטא. Oh, the Radak is now doing שמיניות באוויר. It says like that. Avram goes down to Mitzrayim, he sees those ugly people. I don't know why he didn't turn and went back, but he decided he's going to Mitzrayim. So then he says like that. Even ugly people, that they are going to take my wife, they might torture her once or twice, but if they know that I'm still alive, if that I'm the brother, I have some kind of control over her, that's ancient times. So even if they will torture her once, zehu. But why? Because even immoral people will not do something immoral so many times. Yeah, okay. I understand. Now, says Abraham, because of that, I'm afraid that what? They will kill me. And then there is no Hamas. Why? Because she is just a single lady with no one to protect her, so they will do whatever they want. So in order to what? To save her. To save her. He says to her, please lie, say that you are my sister, and then they cannot kill me because that's immoral. They will not do it in the ancient times to kill the brother to take the sister. They will just will try to bribe him to take the sister. So he wanted to protect her. Mima nafshach. You put her in danger in order to save her. What are you? Like the knight on the white horse. Like, what's the idea? But that's what the Radak wanted to say. But he says, and this is the chet, לא שמח על הבטחת האל שהבטיחו. He didn't trust God that promised him that you should go to the land of Israel and things will be okay. כי אמר שמא יגרום החטא. Because, not because he didn't trust God, but because he didn't trust himself. Which means, God promised me something because I was in this spiritual level. But you know what? Maybe I committed a sin and I lowered myself, and therefore the promise that was given to Abraham in that level does not apply to that level, and then God's protection will not be provided for me, like Yaakov. This is our parsha. When Yaakov has a dream, Hashem says to him, והנה אנוכי עמך, ושמרתיך בכל אשר תלך, והשיבותיך אל האדמה הזאת, כי לא אעזובך עד אשר עשיתי את אשר דיברתי לך. Which means, I'll protect you, I'll defend you, I'll bring you back, and I will not stop until I fulfill all my promises. And then, after the dream, Yaakov comes along and says, what? אם יהיה אלוקים עמדי ושמרני בדרך הזה אשר אנוכי הולך ונתן לי לחם לאכול ובגד ללבוש. ושבתי בשלום אל בית אבי והיה השם לי לאלוקים. If. What is if? God says to you what? I'll do it. What are you doing? What are you saying? If. Answer is, Yaakov says, שמא יגרום החטא. Maybe I will not do everything right. Marrying two sisters. A bit of a problem. Lack of kibud av. That's not a chet. Shema yigrom achet. So therefore, I need to make that condition. Okay? So the Radak says the problem was that Avram did not believe really in himself. And then he says, וכן ראוי לכל צדיק שלא יסמוך במקום סכנה על הנס וישמור עצמו בכל תחבולה אשר יוכל. A righteous person should not rely on a miracle. He should what? He should watch himself and protect himself in any way he can. Maybe I should say this sentence again. No righteous person should rely on any miracles, but he himself should try to protect himself. Maybe I should repeat that sentence again. I don't know. Maybe. Just for different people. ועל זה אמר שלמה, אשרי אדם מפחד תמיד. מניין שאין סומכים על הנס? Okay. Oh, and then he says, וגם האל, that's like the last lines, וגם האל שיבח פחדו, ולא אמר לו, אל תפחד כי לא יהרגוך. אבל אמר לו, עגלת בקר תיקח בידיך, והודע לו כי טובה הייתה מחשבתו שהיה מפחד, וכן ראוי לכל צדיק שיעשה כן ולא יפתח על הנס. He says to Shmuel, now this is another story that the Radak wants to prove his point. He says, if you remember, that when Hashem says to Shmuel to go ahead and appoint David, while Shaul was still the king, Shmuel says to Hashem, if Shaul will hear it, he'll kill me. So, what does Hashem say to him? Take a glad bakar, take a calf, and say that you want to have a zevach with David's family. Don't tell him anything. If Hashem wanted to protect Shmuel, he could say to him what? Don't worry. I will protect you. Go to Shaul and says to him, I am going to appoint David as your next king. מה אתה יכול לעשות לי? Right? What can you do to me? Nothing. Hashem is going to protect me. He didn't do it. Hashem understood that what? Yeah, there is a nature, there is derech hateva, and we go derech hateva. Hashem makes miracles, but you cannot rely on them. So according to the Radak, what was the chet of Abraham? In a way, maybe some kind of a lack of faith in yourself, which is praised, but it can also cause some issues. So the Radak is not that clear about, okay, so what's the specific sin that Abraham committed? It might be that the Radak does not believe that he really committed a sin, but he did what every righteous person should do, which is not to rely on miracles. However, when he didn't rely on miracles, his plan was not exactly the most brilliant one. Okay, so I guess that was the problem. Okay. So until now, almost every commentator suggested what? That he committed some kind of a sin. It can be, maybe not so severe, like, I don't know, killing Uriah, Hitti. Okay, but definitely not something that we are so proud of. But Avram was able to overcome it. Take a look at Mishnat Rabbi Aaron Kotler. Rabbi Aaron Kotler wrote Perushim on Chumash, ממש at the bottom of the page. Tiny letters. Oh, I love that one. כשניגשים, so he's talking now about Ishmael and Yitzchak. Okay, story of Ishmael and Yitzchak. You all remember, right? Sarah can see that Ishmael is nudging Yitzchak, his influence is not great, so she decides to what? To get rid of him and his mother. She comes to Avraham, she says, גרש את בן האמה הזאת ואת בנה, כי לא יירש בן האמה הזאת עם בני עם יצחק. Expel this maidservant, she doesn't even call her by name, and her son, he's not going to inherit with my son, with Yitzchak. Avraham, וירא בעיניו על אודות בנו, he's, oh my gosh, I'm upset, how can you tell me? Until Hashem intervenes and says, כל אשר תאמר עליך שרה, שמע בקולה. Says Rabbi Aaron Kotler, כשניגשים לעניין ישמעאל ויצחק, when you discuss the issue of Ishmael and יצחק, בהשגות והשקפות של אנשים רגילים, ובפרט בדור הזה, in the way of what, basically when you look at it from the mindset or from the perspective of our generation, אפשר לטעות שאתה כאן תגרע בין שתי נשים על זכויות בניהם. You would think that Sarah and Agar basically disputed what? The rights of their children. Like two women, and that's it. They have a fight. Everyone wants her son to be the one. אסור לעלות זאת על הדעת. Should not even what? Think about it. ומחשבה זו היא כפירה ממש. Heresy. Why is that a heresy? Who says that was the problem? Okay. Did you hear about the Hammurabi laws? Hammurabi laws. Hammurabi. No, everyone heard about it. In Hebrew it's called Hammurabi. So these Hammurabi laws, which probably predated the giving of the Torah, they have a chapter that discuss the relationship between a wife and a concubine. Somewhat of a concubine, even though the story, when you read the narrative, that's true that Sarah came to Avraham with the idea of giving Hagar to Avraham as what? As basically not as a concubine, as a womb. That's it. It's basically a womb, a rechem, an incubator. Hagar should be an incubator until that son will come out, and he will be considered as Sarah's son.
Surrogate.
By the way, surrogate. Okay, that was so funny. Okay, now, if you look at our parsha, it's the same idea. Rachel says to Yaakov, הנה שפחתי לפניך, בוא אליה, that was בילה או זילפה? בילה. ויבנה גם אנוכי ממנה. I will be built through her. Did you see Bila trying to claim ownership on the children? כלום. Who gives the name? רחל. נפתולי אלוקים, כי דנני אלוקים, that's done, and אחרי זה נפתולי אלוקים נפתלתי, עם אחותי גם יכולתי, ותקרא את שמו נפתלי. Bila does not say a word. Zilpa? Same thing, does not say a word. None of them even thought that they can claim ownership on those children. They belong to the master, the mistress, whatever, the Sarah and Rachel and Leah. So Sarah thought about the same thing. You know who made the mistake? Abraham. It says in the pasuk, ותיתן לו את הגר שפחתה לו לאישה. Abraham treats her like a wife. Therefore, Sarah says to him, חמסי עליך, אנוכי נתתי שפחתי בחיקך, ויתר כי הרעת, ואקל בעיניה, ישפוט השם ביני וביניך. What does it mean, ואקל בעיניה? She now looks at me as we are equal. And not only that we are equal, she's better than me because I'm trying to get pregnant and I can't. And she gets pregnant like that. So basically, Sarah blames Abraham for what? You elevated her to be a wife. If you will tell her what's her place, this entire thing will look very different. And then, we know, not that we know, but the Midrashim says that Abraham would sneak from his tent and visit Ishmael almost every month without telling Sarah. The Midrash. He loved Ishmael. Lu Ishmael yichyeh lefanecha. I wish that Ishmael would be alive and you should bless him. Abraham really thought that Ishmael can be the one.
He's the first one.
Yeah, it's not only the first one. He also maybe he was oblivious to all of that. I don't know if he was oblivious to the beauty of his wife. Maybe he was oblivious to all of everything that is going on, and he thought he's doing right by Sarah. Bringing it's very pluralistic, very liberal. You bring the other wife in, and they show, they are equal, and the son they will raise together, and it's beautiful. Not exactly according to Sarah's plans, but maybe that's the way Abraham saw it. To the extent, by the way, we can understand the Midrash, that the second wife that Abraham took, Hagar, after Sarah's death, which means A, he was still in love with her, and B, who was the one to bring her back? Yitzchak. A bit strange. However, after he has more kids with Hagar, if TORAH is Hagar, because it's not true, he learned his lesson, and what did he do? He sent everyone away and only keeps Yitzchak. So he's not going to repeat the same mistake again. But it seems to be that it was Avram's fault of giving Hagar so much attention or so much power. So Hammurabilos. So the Hammurabilos basically describe what are the relationship between the wife and the quote-unquote the other wife and their children. Many recent commentators using Hammurabilos and compare it to what's going on in our story. Not sure if it was at the time of Rabbi Cutler, but it's definitely something that in the recent 50, 60 years. Now, so Rabbi Aaron Kotler says, Arezo kfira mamash. This is heresy. If you want to tell me that now they just had a little fight between them, who has more rights? Nonsense. וגם זה לא מתקבל על השכל. It's also what? Not logical. Oh, now take a look why. כי הרי הקדוש ברוך הוא ציווה לאברהם לשמוע בקול שרה. Because Hashem told him to listen to Sarah, ובסתם תגרה בין שתי נשים, לא היה הקדוש ברוך הוא מצווה זאת. And if it was only just a simple fight between two women, God will not intervene. Says who? With all due respect, says who? I don't understand. Why is that logical? They fought. Their fight also influenced what? The future generations of the Jewish people. So don't you think that even if it was a fight between them about the rights of their children, that God needs to intervene? So the illogical claim that he claims, it's a bit challenged. ובכלל, עכשיו הגענו. מעשי האבות, and בכלל, in generally speaking, all the actions of our forefathers, כפי שאמרנו, like we said before, היו יסודות לבניין עם ישראל והעולם כולו. They were the pillars for everything that is going on in this world and for עם ישראל. לא יכלו להיות מושפעים השפעה כלשהי מנטיות ורצונות עצמיים. Their actions, their behaviors were not influenced by any personal inclinations, wants or desires. להבין עניין זה, לפי כמות ואיכות השגתנו, צריך לדעת שאין אבות אלא שלושה. And in order to understand it, you need to understand there are only three fathers, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. ואילו היה פגם כלשהו באבות, and if there was one fault in one of them, ויהיה זה פגם מן הדק. דק מן הדק, and even if it will be what? Very thin, light, small sin, הייתה כל מציאות עם ישראל אחרת. The entire Jewish future and Jewish destiny would be different. מתן תורה, the receiving of the Torah, גאולה, the redemption, ויום הדין and the day of judgment, עתידים לבוא היו בכוח ובהשפעת האבות על צאצאיהם. Everything in our Jewish history and Jewish future is all directly influenced by the avot, and therefore it cannot be that they were influenced by anything else besides one thing, God and destiny. And then he says, ידועה גם השפעת הסביבה על האדם, אפילו על הגדול בענקים. מילנו גדול יותר מיעקב אבינו שרצה להתרחק מלבן ובניו דרך 3 ימים, וחז"ל למדו מזה שדרך שעבר ברשע מזקת 3 ימים, גם ידוע שככל האדם גדול יותר, השפעתו חזקה יותר. ישמעאל היה במדרגה הגבוהה מאוד בחוכמה. Okay, so he goes on and on. Basically, he wants to say that I understand that there is influence, and they knew it, so they ran away from it. Yaakov felt that by being with Lavan, he's being influenced in a negative way. What did he do? He ran away. He didn't allow it to continue to influence him. Now, again, we understand the motivation. However, when we try to really analyze it, he basically says that there was no pgam ba'avot, afilu lo dak min hadak. We looked at all the Rishonim. מה אתם אומרים?
Yeah, I don't understand.
It's a bit extreme. So,
They were human beings, were they
Yes,
not?
there are people.
exactly. To tell me, even if someone is superhuman, you are influenced by society, by your surrounding, by יצר הרע, אין אדם צדיק אשר יעשה טוב ולא יחטא. There is no such a thing. Yes.
Also took Yaakov 20 years to come to that realization.
The what?
That he needed to run away, that he was being influenced.
Oh, yeah. That's a different class. What took him so long? Meaning after the 14th year. 14 years he had to do for his wives. But the other 6 years of enlarging his flock, that's a question. And he was punished, whatever. Yes?
Do you put the others on an ossified pedestal of purified piety, or petrified piety, or do you humanize them so that you can learn from their mistakes?
Right. So that's what we're going to, that's basically the main issue, what we call Tanakh begova העיניים. Okay? Meaning, how do you speak on biblical figures? Do you talk to them as they are humans, and therefore there are faults and deficiencies, but they overcame it and they became the avot, so you can learn from them? Or you say, no, they never sinned. Even if they sinned, they didn't sin. And then you create some kind of a theory about it that we are going to see the leader of that theory. I'll take you in a second, Rav Dessler. But before we say, I will need to give a bit of introduction to Rav Dessler. Yes?
Going back to what you said before, might it be that Abraham really did have feelings for Hagar before Sarah gave Hagar to
Oh, now we're getting
Abraham.
into.
That maybe between them there was something that they didn't energize, but they both knew that there was a feeling between them.
I can't say yes, I can't say no. I mean,
Are
I
there
don't know.
any sources? Are there any?
Nothing. Nothing in the Midrash that Avram had some kind of a
Affair.
of a look, chas v'shalom, on Hagar. זה I will say chas v'shalom. And I don't think, look, the idea to bring Hagar into the marriage was Sarah's, not Avram. So, yeah, so I would probably I will not say it's a kfira mamesh, chas v'shalom, but I will say that I don't think that we should go that route. Okay, Rav Dessler. A short intro about Rav Dessler. Not going to give all the years and everything, but besides the fact that he's very famous because of Mechtav Me'Eliyahu, he was one of the architects of what we will call Haredi Hashkafa post-Shoah. Now, I will say two things about the Shoah vis-a-vis the Haredi group. First and foremost, in terms of numbers, tremendous decline. Even though we know that not every Jew in Poland and Russia and Ukraine was a tzaddik and a chassid and a Haredi, many of them were not even Shomrei Torah mitzvot, but there were masses of what we call today Haredim. Okay, Litvash and Hasidim and whatever, and after the Shoah it shrinked, which means you have a very, very small group, and they are threatened everywhere they go for their religion. In America, I remember I think Rabbi J.J. Shechter showed me the front page of Atlantis or something like that. It was like a magazine in America in the 50s, Atlantis, whatever. The end of Orthodoxy in the 50s. Because no one thought that they would be able to survive. How can you keep Shabbat and be in America and make money, right? How can you do that and send your kids to Jewish education? What kind of Jewish education you're talking about, okay? So they were a minority of minority, and they were basically mocked. I mean, some of you, I'm sure, remember, or at least with your parents, if they decided to send you to a Jewish education, they were mocked by their neighbors. What are you doing? You're sending your kid to learn, you want him to be a rabbi? Like, it's so bad. But, he should be a lawyer, he should be a doctor, he should be whatever.
In America, you say
And-
rabbi is not a good profession for a Jewish boy.
But there is no one else who can do it, right? So the thing is what? Is that that basically it was very hard, and also in Israel. One of the ideas that Ben Gurion gave to the Chazon Ish, the exemption of Torato Umanuto, it was 400 students in yeshiva, 450. Ben Gurion thought there is no future for those Orthodox people. Okay, they are going to be done.
Oh,
Yeah. So basically, so I don't want to discuss.
Doors open on
Yeah, I know. I know.
There was no alternative.
I know. I'm not judging. What I'm saying is, Orthodoxy felt under tremendous threat in America, in Israel, everywhere. So that's one. B, and this is now becoming more complicated, is the faith in the rabbis. Many European rabbis told their congregations, stay. And when things became very tough, somehow some of those leaders found themselves in America or in Israel, where their kehilot were destroyed, which it's called mashber be'emunat chachamim. If you believe that my Rabbi is almost a navi, almost a prophet, he told me to stay, and I lost my entire family, and I'm the only one who survived Auschwitz after 5 years, and I'm a broken person. You want to tell me that what? That he did not make a mistake? And if he made a mistake, maybe everything else he said it was a mistake. Basically, there was a crisis of faith. Mashber emuni. Okay? By the way, I'm going to say it. I don't believe in it, but I just want to show you not only the landscape of machshavot, of thoughts. For example, the Tzionim, Atnoa Tzionit, blamed the rabbis and blamed everyone else who didn't make Aliyah. Okay, the Shoah was quote unquote almost like a punishment for something like that you didn't believe. The secular prophets, the Jabotinskis of the world, okay, the Herzls of the world, Okay, you should believe them and not the Rebbe from whatever. By the way, the disengagement in 2005, the Tzionut Hadatit went through a very similar crisis when some rabbis said things that they shouldn't. It will never happen. Stay here. How do you know that it will never happen? What, you are God? The probability for the disengagement to happen was 99.999%. So, and that caused crisis. You can see the religious Zionism, what happened to religious Zionism since 2005. Someone is going to make a doctorate on it, for sure. It's not only for one. There's enough material there for few. So the thing is that what we have here, Rav Dessler is in that moment of history. And he needs to do what? He needs to do two things. A, to encourage whoever is let's call him Haredi, that he is in the right place. And not only that he's in the right place, he is the true successor of what? Of true Judaism. That's A. B, he needs to what? To build up Emunat Chachamim. Where do you start with Emunat Chachamim? Tanakh. If you tell me that Avram made a mistake, and Sarah made a mistake, and this one made a mistake, it means what? That the Rebbe from Parmishlan also made a mistake. So you need to create a what? Some kind of a theology that can fit to the time and to the crowd that you want to encourage. I'm not saying that this is manipulation. Every commentator, if you look at the years, they obviously try to address their community. But we need to read it with some kind of an open mind to understand where he's coming from, but at the same time to also be critical if he says things that we can see them differently. Okay? I was diplomatic enough? Good. So, take a look at the title. The title is Chat'eim Shel Gdolei Olam. The sins of great people.
Where was he when he wrote this? He went to England.
He might be in England, might be here. And then the subtitle is Gidrei Chat'ot Harishonim. What is a Geder? The definition of the Chata'im. Meaning, there is Chata'im, but I'm going to define it. Okay, so that's what you expect for my essay. So, he says the following. כשנשמע אדם משתמש במילת עוולה, לא נוכל לדעת כלל לאיזו דרגה של חומר עבירה הוא מתכוון, מבלי שנדע את מידותיו של האיש המדבר בדרגתו המוסרית. Which means, if I say to someone, what you did is injustice, I will not be able to understand what do you mean by injustice unless I know what kind of a moral and ethical level you, meaning I, live by. So, for example, if I say this is total injustice, I don't know, to put that coat on this chair. Why? Because maybe someone wants to sit here and he sees a coat and he will not sit here. I will say it's injustice. Why? Because all my life I never put anything on what? On an empty chair. Why? Because my ethical level is that if there is an empty chair, I don't occupy it with anything of my stuff, but rather, you know those people on the bus? They sit in a four-seater, and somehow there are only one person and all the four seats are occupied. So I'm not like that, okay? And therefore, this is my level of morality. And therefore, when I see you putting something on the chair, I will say it's what? It's avla. It's injustice. For example, I took a simple example. So therefore, before you say something on someone, what do you need to do? You need to know his level. So you already see he planted the seeds. Okay? Remember that one. כי הערכה בעוולה היא לפי ערך מידות המעריך. When you say עוולה, you need to know, you need to evaluate the evaluator, which means you need to evaluate the person who says it was injustice. So, for example, when Iran is on the human rights and they say that we commit genocide, I think according to their levels, they shouldn't say anything, right? Okay. למשל, he brings an example. Why do I need to bring my own? לרב ספרא, גניבה היא כבר אם אינו דובר אמת בלבבו. According to Rav Safra, this is one of the cases there in the Gemara, he says that if someone does not say the truth in his heart, okay, he said something that he doesn't think, that's called gneva. If you will ask everyone here, gneva is what? Taking something, theft, right? Taking something that does not belong to you. No, even if you didn't say the truth in your heart, that's called gneva. לתוספתא, מי שאינו אומר דבר בשם אומרו, הוא כבר גנב. Now the Gemara says, האומר דבר בשם אומרו מביא גאולה לעולם. So the opposite is, I would think, לא מביא גאולה לעולם. But the Tosefta says, it's גניבה. Or you are stealing redemption. ויש שלא יבחינו גניבה ברמאות של משא ומתן, ויש גנב סתם שלא ישיג שום עוולה בגניבה כלל. She says some people will only consider gneva only in negotiation, in business. He's a ganev. You know, he took $20,000 from me. And some people will say they will not see any injustice in gneva. Robin Hood. Okay? Robin Hood did not see any injustice. דווקא להפך. That caused justice. Okay? So therefore, it's subjective. That's basically the point. Different people, different level of moral and ethical, I don't want to call it ethical relativism, but it's to some extent it is. And totally subjective. נכון? והנה, הערכתה של התורה הקדושה היא בוודאי המעולה שבהערכות. The Heilige Torah, I'm sure he said it like that. The Heilige Torah is the Torah Kedosha, the Holy Torah. This is the book of morality. Why? It was given by God. Obviously, God is the perfect entity, so everything He says, it's perfect. כבר ביארנו במאמר תורת אמת שמגדרי תורה מן השמיים, שהתורה הקדושה מורמת מעל כל הנגיעות האנושיות ומשפטה ומשפט האמת המוחלטת. Says we are already explained that when we say Torah min hashamayim, it means what? Not only that God wrote it, but what? This is the only absolute truth in this world.
Rabbi, only the written or also the oral?
שלא תעלה מחשבה זאת אפילו בלבבך. ודאי, הכל. Everything. There are no distinctions, especially in that realm of thoughts.
Can you repeat what people, you know?
I should just ask if that's also about the oral Torah, and I said, sure. It's all, everything. Everything that is in the Torah, whatever is called Torah, not only the written one, it's all the absolute truth. Now, what do you do with all the disputes? Okay.
Their explanations,
Always explanations.
interpretations.
When I thought about the title for the class, so I called it at the end Tanakh Begova Einayim, or how to look at biblical figures, but I thought about just to call it It's Complicated. Really, I think that will be probably the simplest way to give a title to this shiur. It's complicated. So he says, וכן כתוב בנביאים בישעיה, כי לא מחשבותיי מחשבותיכם, ולא דרכיכם דרכיי. My thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways, נאום השם, כי גבהו שמיים מארץ, like the heavens are higher than the earth, כן גבהו דרכיי מדרכיכם ומחשבותיי ממחשבותיכם. You cannot even compare. God is not superhuman. God is a different entity. Your thoughts do not even compare to his thoughts. It's not like that I can compare myself like, okay, I'm going to compare my thoughts to Einstein. Okay, he's very smart, you know. It's not Einstein. It's not super Einstein. It's just a different entity, is the source of wisdom. Okay. על כן מובן, שהבחנת התורה בחטאים היא דקה עד אין שיעור. So when the Torah, which is the absolute truth, when they say that this person committed a sin, it's based on whose measures? God, not you. Who are you? Who am I? When the Torah says that someone committed a sin, or when the Talmud says it, it's based on whose measures? God. גם התיאור מיקרוסקופי. You know what's microscopy? Okay? לא יספיק לנו לתת מושג מדקות משפטה. He says, even if you will look with the microscope and you can see the thin of the, that's still, you don't understand what does it mean when the Torah delineates or describes a scene of one of the biblical figures. למשל, הנה התורה מודיעה לנו שמשה רבינו עליו השלום חטא בלא האמנתם בי. Right? When he hit the rock, Hashem says to him, you will not enter the land of Israel. Why? כי לא האמנתם בי. Which means what? You didn't believe in me. So what's the חטא of Moshe Rabbeinu? Lack of faith, right? נכון? זה ממש פשוט, נכון? Simple. With Aaron. ואף על פי כן, מפרשי התורה נלאו לדעת מהות חטאו. No, not only because the commentators try to understand what was the sin. What do you mean, what was the sin? It says, כי לא האמנתם בי. והאברבנאל, זצ"ל מונה 10 פירושים לחטא זה, הוא מקשה על כולם, מוסיף שוב אחד משלו. And the Abarbanel brings 10 reasons for the חטא, or 10 explanations for the חטא, and he reads them all, and he brings his own one, which, by the way, by doing so, you just add to the list of sins. Okay, just accept one of them and move on. But he adds another one, and therefore, what's Rav Dessler's proof from it? That even when the Torah says specifically what's the chet, you see that the commentators try to what? To expand it, to explain it, because they understood that whatever the Torah says, it's not what it means. Okay. וידוע מאמרם ז"ל, הקדוש ברוך הוא מדקדק עם סביביו כחוט השערה. Hashem is very meticulous with his tzaddikim, כחוט השערה, like in a very thin air. Okay. So. רגע, איפה זה? רגע, זה הלך? רגע. שנייה אחת. Okay, yes, here. The one without the number. Yeah. Okay, now. So before we go anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Okay. Think about this Rav Dessler. Rav Dessler says that here is the proof that what? That even when the Torah says Yan lo emantem bi, which is like clear cut, you didn't believe in me, all the Mefarshim try to what? To rationalize it. Here is a proof that even when it says in the Torah something, it doesn't mean what it seems, right? No, I disagree. And why do I disagree? With all due respect, why do I disagree? Because what do? I'm just a reader of a Torah. I know that Moshe did the same thing in Sefer Shmot. He went and he hit the rock, and the water came, and he watered the flock, and Hashem told him, I don't know if Hashem told him shkoyach, but it was okay. The people were thirsty. He went to a rock, he hit the rock, and zeu. So, where here, God does not tell him to take the staff. He told him to take the staff. He told him to talk to the rock. Okay, so you know what? I want to ask you a question. If I will tell you, I can bring water from the wall, do you care if I talk to him or I hit him? No. The miracle is the same miracle. Therefore, the commentators try to explain, and when you look at the commentators, most of them compare the story in Bamidbar to the story in Shmot. And also, obviously, when the Torah says, Yan lo e'emantem bi, lehakdisheni, to sanctify me, what is the focus on? Lehakdisheni. That's why. How do I know that? B'mei merivat kadesh midbar sin. Why do I care about the name? Lehakdisheni kadesh. Which means the fact that the commentators try to explain what was the problem, and in addition to explain what was so terrible in that, because at the end of the day, they all drank. So you address the needs. Okay, and they did not know, meaning the people did not know that what? That Hashem told him to hit the rock, to talk to the rock. For them, they want water. So the idea is that the commentators try to explain why he was punished so harshly. But that's not the proof to tell me that they thought that when the Torah says Yan lo emantem bi, they need to find a way to say that what? Shelo chatu lehefech, exactly the opposite. Or, if I already used the abyssal of Yiddish, a punkt verkehrt, b'diuk lehefech. What punkt verkehrt? the commentators are adding more and more chataim. And with that optimistic note, we will continue next week.